Another day, another Toronto Raptor headlines the news. Today, it's Pascal Siakam. I'm Noor Zainab next to Jelani Goodridge-Reid and Justin Pooni. You guys are feeling good today, eh? It's Friday. And we're feeling good, but it also means we're 1 week closer to the trade deadline. And today, it's all about Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam headlines the news for Toronto Raptor fans as of right now because he got snubbed from the All-Star game. And he actually also headlined international news with Shams taking on FanDuel TV, saying that one of the guys who is looking to be a high prospect in this trade deadline is actually not just OG Anunoby, not just Gary Trent Jr., not just Fred VanVleet. It's pretty much your entire core right now.
The whole team.
Pretty much the whole team, right? It's also Pascal Siakam. So we'll get to that afterwards. But first, guys, Pascal Siakam gets snubs from this year's All-Star game. But let's put things into perspective. He's averaging 24.9 points, 8 rebounds, 6.2 dimes, and Raptors are 12th in the East. There's been a bunch of other snubs from other teams that are probably going to have the same sentiments across the board. So are we feeling like this is something that's deserved?
Look, you go first.
Yeah,
you go first.
I wanted Pascal in there, obviously, but I knew it's gonna be tough because the Raptors have not been playing well this season. Let's just face it, right? And that plays a role. The winning plays a role. And yes, you're gonna say, but look at the Bulls. DeMar DeRozan made it, and those are comparable stats actually, right? So that's why I'm on the side of Pascal should be in there, right? But at the same time, I know that they're gonna give other guys the nod. Julius Randle and the Knicks have been playing better. Let's just face it, right? And he's been playing similarly to 2021. When you talk about guys like Adebayo and stuff like that, it's going to be tough for Pascal to get through there. I just want to say though, he is a guy, one of 4 right now in this season that's putting up 25, 8, and 6. Okay, the other 3 are starting for the Western Conference. That's LeBron. That's Nikola Jokic. That's Luka. So I think that there's a lack of respect, I feel, around the league when it comes to Siakam. I'm not just talking about, the league itself, but fans as well. I think because he plays in Toronto, they don't really respect him as much as he should be respected. Yeah. Right. But I'm not surprised by this. I'm not gonna lie here and say that I'm surprised. But the last point is it's gonna be funny because he has more All-NBA selections at this point than All-Star selections, and but All-NBA has higher value.
Exactly what to say
for your legacy. But for me, I am pretty disappointed that he's not in the game. He's the reason why we're alive at some point, this season. At this point this season,
well, you're on life support.
Yeah, life support.
Life support.
He's keeping us afloat. But the numbers are there. The games he's been playing. He had a hot start to the season, but when it's all said and done, it was gonna be tough anyway.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like when you look at the Eastern Conference, guys, it's deep this year, very deep. And you mentioned the front court. There's no way in hell he's going to get an All-Star nod past Joel Embiid, right? Yeah. I know people think that there's always this debate between Bam and Siakam, but Bam is playing very well, and Bam on the defensive side of the floor is much better than Pascal Siakam, right? You mentioned Julius Randle. We talked about it last week, actually. I mentioned, Julius Randle playing a lot better is going to affect Pascal Siakam's ability to make the All-Star team because they play the same position. He's on a winning team. They're putting up similar numbers, and he plays in New York, right? Yeah. And then the guards, the wild cards are going to go to guards because the guards, there's so many talented guards in the Eastern Conference. But another thing is Pascal Siakam's contract situation. Had he got this All-Star nomination and he gets another All-NBA nomination, it helps him get that super max, right? Yeah. So maybe Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster are kind of low-key kind of happy because they don't got to pay Masai that much money, right? Pascal that much money. Look, you mentioned all the stats, what he's averaging this year. Of course, the numbers, men lie, women lie, but numbers never lie. He's putting up big numbers. But again, the coaches, it comes down to the coaches, and maybe the coaches just don't feel Pascal Siakam.
Yeah. But that's funny because they always be doubling him. Right?
But who else you got double in the Raptors?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so much respect there from the coaches when you play Toronto. So I don't know.
I wonder if there's also an element of bias and relationships there, because if you look at their selections in the East, right? You mentioned it, that they picked the guards. Who did they pick amongst the guards? They picked Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday over James Harden. James Harden already is averaging higher in every way than Drew Holiday is. Philly's only 3rd in the league. And in the East, and Drew and the Bucks are 2nd. And why is that? It's not because James Harden is a worse player than Drew Holiday. It's because they prefer Drew Holiday over James Harden because James Harden might not be a locker room guy for them, right? It's a matter of what your relationship with them in. And I remember you saying that you think Pascal Siakam would get the nod because coaches like him, and it makes sense because, yeah, they're all doubling him constantly. But does Pascal Siakam have a relationship with those coaches? I think that's kind of where the coach's bias comes in, I think, right? And that's probably why we go on to say, well, the fans shouldn't have this vote because last year Andrew Wiggins was out for half the year and he got the All-Star nod, and now it's the same thing. But like, it's the same thing with coaches. Like,
that was a fan vote for Wiggins, though, right?
That's what I just
Yeah.
said, right? That's what I said.
Yeah.
It's like the fans, when they're voting, they don't know what they're doing because they picked Wiggins. And we can sometimes say the same sentiments towards the coaches as well, because even though they know the game, they understand everything. I actually saw Mo. So Mo works at Bleacher Report, and he said he's been in locker rooms and amongst coaches as they're picking their all-star guys. They spend 10 minutes. They're not thinking hard about it. And you know why? Because they've got games to game plan for. They have to go back, host locker room meetings, go do press conferences and stuff. So they don't have the time to sit there and be like, ooh, what are the stats looking like today? It's all about who do they like, who's the eye test for them. And unfortunately, it sucks because Pascal Siakam, Lewinberg said this yesterday too. He says, assuming he maintains his current pace right now, Pascal Siakam would be the first player in NBA history to average 25 points, 8 rebounds, 6 dimes, and not make the All-Star game.
Yeah, it's tough. I just think it's the situation right now.
Let me ask you guys this, right? Is it, again, we know, I've always said the NBA All-Star game is the biggest popularity contest in all of sports, right? Pascal Siakam's not a guy like John Morant or Trae Young, LeBron James, or pick any superstar in the NBA who's very out there on social media. He's not out there like that, right? Does that, if I'm an NBA player, I'm going to make sure I'm very active on social media because I want people to know who I am so I can get these All-Star nominations because I feel guys like Pascal, guys like Fred VanVleet, guys that aren't very active on social media, unless you're Kawhi, and it's a part of your whole shtick that you're not active on social media. I think that hurts your chances.
Well, I also look at geography. We're in Toronto, and
respectfully,
the guy, let's face it, everyone in America doesn't watch the Toronto
They don't care.
Raptors.
And not
they don't
just
care.
that, he's also not American either,
That-
right?
that-
So he has
again, that's
double.
another factor, yeah.
So he's from Cameroon, plus he's playing from Toronto, so he's getting the double disrespect
That's what I'm
factor
saying.
with the league.
So he could play as well as possible. Like, he could have a career year. It's still going to be tough for him to make the All-Star team, right? It's even tough for him to make All-NBA because people feel as though bigger names should be on there. That guys that have comparable numbers should be on there. So it's always been tough for the Raptors.
And every Raptor in history that's been a consecutive All-Star has been from America, right? Vince Carter, DeRozan, Lowry, Kawhi.
Well, it's funny because right now they're saying no Siakam, but when he comes and he makes the trade headlines, everybody wants to be salivating, drooling over who he is. And latest reports, once again, Shams said it's going to be OG, John Collins as well, actually from the Hawks. But for us, it might also be Pascal Siakam, who is getting eyes and looks everywhere from GMs across the league. So what is there that the Raptors might be willing to move him for? Of course, it's a big haul, but who's there to give you a big haul?
So you would get like a Donovan Mitchell style haul, Rudy Gobert style haul.
I better get
That's the floor, right? That's the ceiling, right? Young players and picks and probably expiring contracts just to make the money work, right? But I've been saying this now for how many weeks now? If the Raptors are really truly want to rebuild around Scotty Barnes, you got to get rid of Pascal Siakam. You got to get rid of all these guys because, especially Pascal Siakam, because he will bring you the most amount of assets back. Look what Rudy Gobert did for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
The Jazz are a competitive team this year, and they have a whole bunch of assets that they can trade going forward. They can use as their draft picks to bring in young talent. They're in a very flexible position right now where they can do whatever they want. And if the Toronto Raptors truly want to build a championship contender once again, trading Pascal Siakam, I know fans they're all already in tears, and it's like they're writing their eulogy. They're writing a eulogy for OG Anunoby, and then imagine Pascal Siakam. Look, great service for the Raptors, helped win a title. It's time to move on. It's time to look forward to the future. And guys, sometimes change is a good thing.
You gotta love the common JP quote, but I think that the Raptors really are in a tough spot. They're stuck. Like, do they want to rebuild, retool, I say retool. Or do they want to go for the play-in and try to be a contender
that's not
moving
worth
forward, right? Let's say the Raptors do, like, because Masai wants to win. We know this, right? And I think Pascal should be a guy on this team if you're looking toward winning, okay? So looking to the future, the near future, I say you keep him and you keep Scotty. You try to build something around those dudes, right? Because I'm still looking at Pascal Siakam, who could have been an all-star this year, let's face it, right? He's still playing at a high level. And I get it. He's approaching that 30, age of 30 mark, but I still see him having 3 to 4 solid years of his prime, quote unquote prime, that could help us win games in the Eastern Conference, possibly be a contender if you find a way to get more depth on that bench via trades. OG, looking at you, possibly, Gary, we don't know, Fred. Find a way to get that done. I say that if they want to be successful, you keep a Pascal Siakam. But on the flip side to that, there's a case for trading him. There is a case, right? Because we've been talking about OG a lot. We've been talking about Fred, and if you keep those guys. But Pascal Siakam, like Justin said, he would give you the biggest haul. We know this, right? Because we see that the picks are there, the young assets are there with OG Anunoby. Now you're talking about an all-star caliber player in Pascal Siakam. I would want someone back like a DeAndre Ayton, who would be, a center that you need.
And he's
right?
younger.
And he's the younger player. That's an example of who would come in a deal. But for me, if you're asking me though, I would want to keep Pascal.
Yeah, in a perfect world, to keep a guy like Pascal, who's already part of your system, he's won everything with you before. He clearly is a reliable number 2, and you never know what the future with him could look like, especially as you said, because his prime isn't over yet. He's gonna have 3-4 years left to go, and you never know, he could win his second chip with the Raptors and their new young.
Hey, I don't know about that.
That's not gonna happen.
I'm gonna shoot for the stars. I don't care about you guys. I don't care what you guys are talking about. I'm gonna shoot for the stars. But that also means, let's see who's still a part of the Toronto Raptors as of next week. This weekend will be pretty big. I'm gonna have my phone on. My notifications gonna be running all the way through.
Raptors
Hopefully we get
insider?
some sleep. We'll see what happens, but keep your eyes peeled. Let's hope this team looks somewhat like themselves, or at least a better version of who they are right now
Or
once
new
they come
players,
back
or
to
new
Toronto next
Get
week.
Victor.
New players. There could be new players.
That's what I just said. I said new players for us to like.
Okay.
So
Get
we'll see. That's what
Victor,
I just said.
Scotty, Pascal.
I'm looking at every single avenue, and I'm trying to cover it, even though I would like to retool, not rebuild. But we'll see what the Masai and Bobby choose. And check us out next time on Monday, Homestead NBA. Take care.